Hey guys, Joey here from Plugged In Tech, and today I'm going to be doing a custom PC build. This is probably I'd put it on the budget end of custom PCs, so nothing over the top, but it'll be enough to get you by. Probably play, some lower end games to some modern games on medium to maybe high settings. But more than anything, it's for daily computing and that type of thing. I wanted to start this video earlier, but dumb me forgot to start recording. So I've already done one of the steps. Well, actually, I guess you could consider it two of the steps. So first, obviously, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to crack open all your parts and take a look at them, because I'm sure you're excited for that. Here you can see, got the computer case. So as you can see, I've already got the motherboard in the case. When you open your case and you're looking inside of it for the first time, you're going to see some, they more or less look like those right there, these little rivets type of deals. But there'll be some in the case with these little feet like this already installed into them. And these screw into the case itself, and then the motherboard screws will screw into these. Basically what that does is those are feet to keep the board from touching the case itself, to stop any grounding issues you might have. So basically what you're going to want to do is your motherboard should also come with a little plate like that shows what each plug is for, and you'll just line that up and pop that into the case. And then you'll set the motherboard gently down in and line up the screw holes. As you can see, I got there, and there. Got to screw in 4 holes. There are 6. There's one there, and there's one there. But this is a computer that's going to be relatively still its entire life. It's not really going to be moving around. So there really isn't a need for more than 4 screws, especially since there isn't going to be any very heavy graphics card weighing down on the board itself in the center. So 4 screws will be more than enough. So anyways, once you get that screwed in, depending on what case you've got, it may or may not come with pre-installed fans. These are the typical plugs that you'll see on a fan right there. It's those 3-prong. But this one is nice. It also came with an option to use the Molex adapter on your power supply, and I'll get to that later when I'm installing the power supply. Anyways, if you are going to be using this type of fan plug, now's a good time to go ahead and plug those in. You'll look around the board and you'll see there's one right there. There's this type of plug right there, and boom, your fan has power. But I'll probably show you later on in the video how to use the Molex option, just because that's nice. So next thing is the processor installation. Again, this is something I really wanted to show, but I've already got the thermal paste on there, and I'm not undoing it at this point. So you'll just have to trust me that I did it the right way. Basically, you're going to want to get yourself some thermal paste. Listen to me stutter over my words there as I'm saying them. This stuff is my personal favorite. It's Arctic Silver 5. Yeah, Arctic Silver 5. Newegg sells it. He'll ship it to you just like this. Arctic Silver's website actually has a diagram of how you should be applying the thermal paste. It actually depends on the processor that you've got. So I'll leave a link for that in the description. Check that out and make sure you're applying the thermal paste in the proper fashion. Installing the processor heatsink is very straightforward. AMD, it's got a latch on this side. You set it on the processor and loop the piece of metal around this orange piece that sticks out. Sometimes this bracket will be a different color, so don't let that confuse you. And on the other side, it will have the same type of bracket with this type of knob thing. This will be in this position. You flip it over and it's locked in place. Processor installation itself is also very easy. The processor is going to have an arrow on it, and the motherboard will have an arrow on it. Line the arrows up, the processor will fall right into place, and then it's got a little lever that you flip over and it will lock it into place as well. So that's pretty straightforward. Next we're on to the RAM installation, which is basically you just line it up. There's a little slit right there in the bottom of the RAM, and it will line up with the little slit right there on the slots of the board. and you just line them up. Make sure these little feet here, this is the lock position, this is the unlock position. Just push those back on the slots that you're going to be putting the RAM into. Line it up. And once you're sure it's centered, it's not locked in place yet, but you can tell that it's centered because it's holding itself in place. You push in the center. You can hear it click on one side and click on the other side. Those feet should close by themselves, so if they haven't, it's not in all the way. Next thing we're going to be installing is the power supply. So here you can see the power supply and all the cables that run out of it. This here is the cord that will be plugging into the outside of the computer. That's a little sticker covering that so no dust gets in there. And that's the main switch. As you can see, quite a lot of cables going on here. We won't be needing all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and install this into the case. A gaming case, typically the power supply will mount at the bottom. Because the gaming cases usually have vents on the bottom that the power supply can breathe through, but this is a budget case, so it mounts at the top. It's also more convenient to have it plugged into the bottom, because that's where all your cables are running out of anyways. But anyways, it's just going to sit right in there. Make sure when you mount this into the case, you're not mounting it in upside down. There's typically a fan on the power supply. You want it facing inwards. You want it facing down into the case so it's not facing up and doing nothing. So that will slide right in there, and then it will come. It should. Yep, I can see the screws right there. It came with screws in the box. If not, your case will come with them. And then you just take a few minutes to line it up and screw it in, and I'll be back. Alright guys, we are back, and I have my power supply installed. Let's take a look at that real quick. It's just held in by 4 screws. I know I said that the power supply came with screws, but I lied to you. The case actually came with them, so I took them from the bag there, and it's held firmly in place by... Excuse me. Go. Okay. Anyways, it's held firmly in place by 4 screws, and it actually sits on little metal feet that come out of the case so it doesn't drop on the inside. So just make sure it's lined up on those. Alright, and then you can just throw the wires out to the side because we're not going to be hooking things up quite yet. Now we're going to be getting to the graphics card. I'm going to be installing today a Radeon HD 7750 Core Edition from XFX. Play hard. This is a budget card for certain. It's 1 gig of DDR5, HDMI, DVI, VGA. It's $115 on Newegg. Your graphics card ports, you'll either have 1 or 2 on your motherboard. In this case, I've got 2. It's set up for crossfire, which means that you can plug in 2 of the same type of graphics card, and you can bridge them together, and they'll act as 1 card and be nearly twice as powerful. If you're only installing 1 card, use the topmost slot on the motherboard. This slides down in, just like this. You're going to line it up with the slot and push it down into place. Make sure that I'm seating it properly. I'm actually going to stop the video because I really can't see what I'm doing. Alright, so the card is all installed. Alright, so now we've got the power supply installed. We've got the graphics card installed. We've got the processor installed. We've got the RAM installed. And we've got the motherboard installed. What's left? Let me reach over here in my little handy-dandy box of computer parts. Oh! It's a hard drive. The hard drive will be installed to this left-hand side. It will slide right in, and you want it to slide in so the power plugs and everything on the hard drive are facing inwards towards the motherboard so you can plug them in easy. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick the slot you want. I'm going to go with the bottom slot. I've got the screw holes all lined up. There's one there, one there. This is the third one there, so that's not going to be used. Screws might go in a little bit tough. You're wearing the threads for the first time. Now we've got to start hooking everything together, giving everything power, and making sure that it will work. Got our little USB plug thing here, and we're going to just line it up. I'm going to go with the bottom right one first. Here comes my least favorite part. What's your least favorite part, Joey? Let me tell you. Let me show you. Do you see these here? These also come from the front of the computer case. Here you have your HD, your hard drive LED that will show up on the front of the computer to let you know when your hard drive is spinning. You've also got your power LED, positive and negative. Those are separate. You've got your reset switch and you've got your power switch. Finally, the camera decides to focus. And they all say what they are on them. The only problem is that typically motherboards won't. You've got that one little orange cluster right there, and all of these tiny little cables plug into that. One little orange cluster. So basically what you're going to have to do for this step, I wish I could help you better, but you're going to have to just crack open the manual that came with your motherboard and figure out which pins correspond with which plugs here. Plug them in. You might need some needle nose pliers because it gets really cramped down in there when you're trying to plug these bad boys in. I'm going to take a few seconds and do that. I'm not going to make you suffer through it because it's probably going to take me a little bit. I'm probably going to get aggravated. So I'll be right back after that. Alrighty, I finally got those cables plugged into the motherboard, but as I was plugging them in, I realized one component I did not show you how to install, nor did I install it. CD drive, kind of need one of those if you want to install the operating system on your hard drive. Slot 1 and slot 2. We're going to be putting it in the top slot. For this, typically, CD drives slide in from the front. They don't slide in so easily from the inside of the case, but that's okay because you've already got this open. So you just line it up. It might resist you a little bit. Slide it in till it's flush with the front of the case. And then, like everything else we've done, so got that in there. That's all in there. Time to give power to everything. Woo! Power! First things first. Let's plug in the CD drive. Since I just put that in, why not? Carry on with it. I'll show you. When I plug in the hard drive, it is literally the exact same method you're going to use to plug in any CD drive you might have. They're the same these days. This is, as I already mentioned, any modern CD drive that you're going to be plugging in won't be using IDE, it'll be using SATA instead. So this method here goes for not only your hard drive, but for your CD drive as well. So you can literally just mirror exactly what I'm about to do. So as you can see, we've got our hard drive there. And we're going to look through our power cable, our power supply cables, and find a SATA power cable. Now these look like this here. And it's as simple as lining the plug up on the drive with the plug, and there's only one spot it can go, so you can't get it wrong, and just plug it in. It might go in a little bit tough because your hard drive, if you're using a new hard drive, if it's been used before, then chances are it's worn a little bit, so it'll plug in easier. And now your hard drive's receiving power. Alright, so once your hard drive has power, it's also going to need to receive data. Now, this is what your SATA cables will look like. Your motherboard will come with one. The SATA data cable plugs in directly next to the SATA power cable. So once you've got that plugged into the hard drive, you'll need to plug it into the motherboard. I've got a cat around me again. Alright, so now your hard drive's got power and data. So your hard drive's all hooked up. That should be ready to go. Motherboard's the next thing to receive power. Now this is the main connector. This is what puts power through almost everything. This will power your graphics card, your CPU, and your motherboard, and the fans, and the RAM. So this is the big boy. This is the biggest cable. There's only one spot on the motherboard for that this cable to plug into, the main power supply, the main power cable. Jeez, look at me talk. Anyways, you just line up the pins and push it in until you hear it click into place, and once it's in, then all of your components have power. I don't remember if I already mentioned it, but if you haven't plugged in your CPU heatsink fan, there'll be a cable running off of it right here. And that it will actually be a 4-pin fan connector. So there's only one of those on the motherboard, and it's typically near the RAM and where the CPU mounts to the board. And that means that nearly everything is done. All we've got left to do is hide the cables, pop the side of the case on, plug the computer in, and boot it up and see if it runs. So I'll be back with that in just a second. One last quick thing before I power this all on. I actually made a mistake when I was telling you how to plug in your devices and give them power. When you plug in the main power cable over here for the motherboard, this isn't the only power cable that the motherboard receives. Over here on the left-hand side of the motherboard, there is an 8-pin connector. You were probably looking at it the whole video going, when's he going to use that? That's an 8-pin connector, and that's it's an additional power bridge for the motherboard. It will send power to other devices of the computer, such as the graphics card. Here we are back again, and as you can see, the desktop is all set up and ready to go. This is the phase where you would install any operating system you were planning on putting on your computer. As you can see, we've got our tower over there, all put back together and looking glorious, and it's hooked up to a 23-inch Asus 1080p LED monitor. So got it all together, and here's the power on. I lied to you. Let me flip the power supply on. That would be a good place to start. And power on. We got the blue light coming on, telling us that the desktop has power, and then the red light coming on, showing us that the hard drive is spinning. BIOS screen flash right there, and now we're at the screen that tells us we need to choose a proper boot device, which means install your operating system essentially, because it's got nothing to do. So there you have it. That's how to put together your own custom PC. If you have any questions at all, go ahead and leave a comment below, or head over to plug-in-tech.com and hit us up through there. Thank you for watching. This has been Joseph from Plugged In Tech, signing out and keeping you plugged in.